All right, well, Elon Musk has just threatened to go, quote, thermonuclear against an online journalism entity, and he is going to file a lawsuit, he has said, against the website Media Matters. And Media Matters is a more left-leaning website that bills itself as a kind of a media watchdog group. Anyway, they published a major report this week claiming that advertisements for major companies like Apple and IBM and Paramount, et cetera, that advertisements for these companies were being attached to, run alongside Media Matters claims, anti-Semitic content. And so one example of this, Media Matters claims that there was an ad that was run next to a particular Twitter post praising or excusing Hitler. So what's happened is a whole lot of corporations, major primary funders of Twitter, we're talking about into the hundreds of millions or more of advertising revenue. These companies have now suspended their advertising with Twitter. And so we're talking about, again, major companies, Apple and IBM and Paramount, and there's a list you can see. And so this is a big, big deal. You know, it's kind of like I was talking about earlier in another video about the university issue and how it really, things don't really have an effect until complaints don't really have an effect until the pocketbook starts getting hit, until the checks stop being written, that sort of thing. So this is a big deal. And this is probably why Elon Musk announced yesterday that from here on, Twitter will be punishing, restricting accounts that say things like, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and talk of decolonization, because Musk says these terms necessarily imply genocide of the Israeli people. It really does seem like Musk feels he's gotten in some hot water and that he decided then on Friday to do that. But he is but he issued that proclamation that Twitter will basically be restricting the free speech of people who express these particular statements, sentiments. And also he is suing Media Matters for their coverage of him this week. That's caused a number of major advertisers to withdraw. Now, one thing that the Jewish Anti-Defamation League had complained about, and that a number of these sponsors who are pulling their ads from Twitter have complained about as well. They're also upset about the fact that Elon Musk liked a tweet that someone wrote that was critical of the political perspectives, the political perspectives that modern Jewish Americans have had for decades now. That is to say that most Jewish people vote more progressive, more to the left, and are more in favor, as this tweeter mentioned, are more in favor of open immigration policies. Now, Musk, he liked this tweet. He also said that you have spoken the truth, or this is the truth. And a lot of people freaked out over that. And some of the advertisers that I mentioned are freaked out over it because they say that this was Musk endorsing an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. The conspiracy theory being that apparently some people believe that Jews are, it's called the replacement theory, that Jews are trying to replace whites with minority ethnic groups for their own purposes, I suppose. I didn't read too deeply into the theory. I think it's really, really unfair to saddle Elon Musk with that, because when you look at the actual tweet that he was responding to, the tweet was not it said nothing about a replacement theory. It did not espouse this particular belief. As I read it, my opinion, what the tweet was saying, it was simply pointing out that most Jewish Americans politically have been very much to the left and have been very much in favor up to this point of this very woke, DEI-oriented, critical race theory-oriented perspective on modern American society, and that organizations like the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League in particular, have been very anti-white and bigoted against whites in a number of their public statements and philosophies. And so I think it's unfair to saddle Elon Musk with the label of anti-Semitic, because that was not, that I don't think that's what that tweet was getting at. And there is absolutely nothing wrong, I think, with being critical of the way that people vote, particularly if you believe that they're not voting in their own interest. I mean, how many times did we hear people criticizing Kanye West for being a Trump supporter because supposedly as a black man, he should have known that it wasn't in his interest to do that? And I've heard many, many people say on many occasions that they don't understand why any minorities would ever vote for Republicans, because they're voting against their own interests. Don't they know that? Well, I felt like this is what this tweet that Elon Musk endorsed, this is what I felt like it was saying, was that now suddenly you have a lot of Jews in the political arena. Okay, we're talking, it was a critique too of like the ADL and politics. You have had up to this point, it seems like in the political arena, a lot of Jewish Americans have not been mindful of the fact that these woke ideas that many of them were supporting or espousing, like the ADL was espousing and supporting, that many of these woke ideas were actually problematic. And so the critique is that it's not until now that you see a lot of prominent Jews and Jewish organizations suddenly realizing that we have a problem. Oh my God, maybe we have a problem with wokeness in this society. Maybe we have a problem with certain prejudices against Jews and against whites by minority groups. I don't know. And so it's like these groups like the ADL have just sort of awakened to there being a problem here. And I think that what the tweet that Musk endorsed was trying to say is it was trying to point out that some of these groups had a hand in creating the political climate that they are now bemoaning, like the ADL, which has pushed all of these different ideas, very, very left-leaning, wokeness, critical race theory, very, very negative view of race relations, and also a real opposition to any kind of sensible immigration policy, which, by the way, lots of Latinos believe in a sensible immigration policy. Lots of blacks do. Lots of people do, right? It's not a racist idea. But anyway, I felt this way about what's going on in regard to the university question. A lot of people now, and I talked about this in an earlier video, a lot of people now, prominent Jewish businessmen and hedge funders like Bill Ackman and heads of corporations and tech companies and whatever, a lot of influential businessmen and women have been suddenly wringing their hands over the state of higher education and college campuses, because they have been so alarmed at the fact that there are a number of students who are protesting the Israeli invasion of Gaza. And you have hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe $1 billion worth of funding now for major institutions like Harvard and Yale and Columbia, elite universities. You've got hundreds of millions or even $1 billion or more of funding at stake, with all of these different donors who are pulling their money and suspending their donations. I see it every day now. Every day there's a new story about another major donor suspending funding and to some school and making additional threats. And I saw one article this week that said that 1,300 donors had written a letter to, I believe it was Harvard, saying that they were going to suspend their funding because Harvard wasn't doing enough to combat anti-Semitism. And every day now, billionaire hedge funder William Ackman is pounding the drums on this. Well, the college issue, putting aside even the Israeli-Palestinian crisis, which I just really am not wanting to get into right now. I'm trying to make a larger comment about the general state of free speech in our country and also the general state of our universities. All of these people who are upset right now, if they want to look for someone to blame, I'm talking about all of these donors and Bill Ackman and all of these people who are pulling their funding to these universities because suddenly they've awakened to the fact that, oh my God, there's maybe something wrong with the political climate at our universities. Well, you know what? There have been big problems at the universities for a while now, particularly at these elite institutions, but it's filtered down into every school. There have been big problems for years and years now that actually have nothing to do with the Israeli-Palestinian issue that this is the issue that you're now concerned about. It finally hits close to home for you. And so now you're waking up. Well, if you want to look for someone to blame, Bill Ackman and others, for the state of the modern university, then look at yourselves, because you're the ones who have been writing the giant checks for years and years now, knowing that there were big problems on college campuses. And I'm not talking right now about pro-Palestinian protest. I'm talking about all of the ridiculousness with the political ideology that has been pushed, the woke ideology and the critical race theory and this sort of really extreme aggrieved feminism. I'm talking about the fact that you have serious crimes, like serious allegations like rape and sexual assault on campuses that are being adjudicated by administrators on a 51-49 basis, so that you've got tons of guys who were falsely accused and kicked off campus and suspended, their names ruined through these completely ridiculous campus tribunals where some administrators with great deal of bias and incentive, where they're judge, jury, and executioner basically, and where the accused are often stripped of what we should see as basic rights in these kinds of scenarios. I've talked about the case of someone that you yourself, Bill Ackman, know and support, David Sabatini, the world-renowned scientist who formerly at MIT was trying to find a cure for cancer and aging and diabetes and all of that, was on the short list for a Nobel Prize. Well, he got sacked or was forced to resign from MIT and from all of his labs and all of his great work, all of his research, because he had a consensual relationship with a colleague, and she freaked out and she did an Amber Heard on him, and it was well documented even in text to other colleagues, and she got him Weinsteined out of there and ruined his life. And of course now she's an esteemed tenure track professor herself, right, at MIT. Completely did an Amber Heard on him. It was a complete hoax and charade, and there's all of his documentation showing it. Well, you stepped out for him, Bill Ackman. You did, and I commend you for that, and I thank you for that. You supported your friend publicly. You did, and that took guts. But I guess I just don't understand how a man like you, Bill Ackman, who is so intelligent and who saw, like in cases like with your friend David Sabatini, how messed up academia is right now, and you just kept writing the checks. And so, it's like now everyone's upset about what's going on college campuses. And to me, the Israeli-Palestinian, this debate, this is not the thing to be upset about, because first of all, it is a very complicated, and I'm talking about not to be upset about in terms of, oh my God, our students are saying, crazy things or whatever, or they're protesting. There's, like 20 or 30 of them protesting in front of the library. I don't think that this is the fire of a five-alarm fire that a number of people seem to think it is. I just think that this is a distraction actually from the real problems, and there are many, at our modern universities. And so it's just irritating to see someone like William Ackman and people like him who have been feeding the beast for years and years and years, when they could have stepped forward much earlier and shown leadership on issues that actually really are important in the university and higher education. And they just haven't. So anyway, back to Elon Musk. It just seems like to me, look, I have never been a big fan of him, throughout the whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing. I thought he did some shitty things to Johnny, but I have come to the idea also that he himself was being very much manipulated by Amber Heard. And she is a master manipulator. And men, they're not that bright when they're really swept away in a romance or whatever, or lust or love, whatever it was. So I think in a way Elon Musk was a victim of Amber Heard as well. And I think it's just, I kind of am just moving on in my mind from having an issue with him, because I so admire how he has been, imperfect though he may be, he has been standing up for free speech. And he is one of the few people, everybody, let's just stop here and recognize the fact that Elon Musk is one of the very, very few people in our society who really has the balls and the guts to publicly say what he thinks and not be cowed and not bow down to the dominant orthodoxy that has everybody else so cowed and terrified and quiet. And the thing that you all need to understand, that everyone needs to understand, is that when we exercise free speech and when we have opinions and we speak our minds and when we make the effort to communicate with other human beings, there will inevitably be fuck ups. Sometimes we'll say the wrong thing. Sometimes we'll espouse an opinion without really fully thinking it through, or without having the full picture, or because we were in a weird mood, or just shooting off our mouth. There are things, I say things all the time on my show that as they're coming out of my mouth, I'm not even sure. Sometimes I'm like, where is this even coming from? I didn't mean to say that, I'm not talking about like lies or something, like, oh my God, I'm telling a lie right now. What's going on? I'm talking about, though, sometimes some of the dumb shit that we all say. And there are definitely videos that I've done where I've listened to them again and I've cringed at certain parts because I knew that they would be misunderstood, or I knew that people in their minds would take them too far or not far enough, or that people would read them uncharitably or what have you. But that is just a risk that we have to take and we have to allow if we are going to enjoy the very real benefits of free speech. And so I do really get tired of the way in which people, and Elon Musk in particular, are targeted day after day in our society based on just every little thing that they comment on Twitter, or that they like. And in this case, I absolutely really do not think that Elon Musk was endorsing this replacement theory, conspiracy theory, or was in any way trying to be anti-Semitic. I really don't. I really don't think he's an anti-Semite. And I am getting tired, as someone who really has not really weighed in at all on this Israeli-Palestinian thing. I am getting really tired of this willful conflation of anything that is anti-Israeli policy, conflating that as with anti-Semitism. That any criticism of Israel or Israeli policy is, or any pointing out of some of the very real problems with what they're doing in Gaza, whether or not it's justified or not, I understand, but that's not anti-Semitism. It's not. It's not. And I am getting really tired of that kind of willful conflation. I am. And so I really would like people to leave Elon Musk alone on this. I really think, hey, advertisers, you're being a bunch of crybabies, and I don't think that your critiques are valid. And also, I don't think it's up to Twitter to police every single advertisement they come out or that they attach to something. If you tell me Media Matters, that you found a place on Twitter, on X, you found a place, you said, where there was an ad for IBM or an ad for Apple or something, and it was attached to some dumb comment people were making about Hitler or whatever. If you're telling me that is a reason to go after Elon Musk, or that is a reason for all of these people to pull their funding from one of the few places that is trying to have some degree of respect for free speech and give us some kind of a forum that is not absolutely tainted by woke ideology and orthodoxy, if you're telling me that that's something that I need to be really upset about, I'm just not. I'm just not. It's another idiot on the internet saying idiotic shit next to another idiotic ad that nobody even cares about. Nobody looks at an Apple ad next to someone popping off some dumb comment about who knows what and says, oh, well, if there's an Apple ad next to it, then it must be right. That gives it so much more credibility, doesn't it? Give me a break. I'm just tired of all this childishness. I'm tired of all the screaming online. I know we all are, as I scream. But no, I'm tired of all the childishness. I'm tired of people deliberately misunderstanding each other. And it just seems like life more and more online is becoming this gotcha game. And I'm tired of it. So anyway, I will support Elon Musk on this. And I hope his lawsuit does well. And I hope these advertisers grow some balls and they stop fleeing every time there's, even a whiff of a scandal somewhere. All right, everybody, as someone who does not have advertisers, I do appreciate your contributions and support. I get by totally based on your help. And so my links are below: PayPal, Patreon. Every little bit counts and is helpful. I hope you have a good day. And I will continue to try to uphold free speech and those types of values. And I will continue to talk about issues like the Israeli-Palestinian crisis in a way that refuses to adamantly come down on one side or the other, because I'm just not smart enough or educated enough to have come to a firm conclusion on that issue yet. But maybe in the future. All right. Everybody, love you. See you later. Thank you. Bye.